Hey everyone, my name is Georgiana, and today we are starting what I hope will be day one of a series. I always feel like whenever we start these things, it's almost like in bad form to discuss what I want it to become without actually doing enough of it for it to become that thing. So I'm here doing a live video with you. I just want to share some things with you all, kind of like a behind the scenes, uncut, unfiltered, unedited preview of some of the things that I'm working on. A couple of things have happened. So over the last year, as I've been working on building the Boss Ladies Network, which is a community, it has a lot going on. It's a community for women in male dominated fields, which, as I've seen over the last year, that goes beyond just women in STEM. So the growth of the community is one thing. Another thing that I've sort of been realizing is that um, my intention was to not so much create a community, but to sort of, well, as for those of you who have been following me for a while, the initial point was to share tips on building confidence, which turned into building success, which turned into finding fulfillment and a life that is, full of joy and worth living, that goes beyond, monetary value, So it became more of a holistic personal development, but also life and wellness sort of situation. And I realized that that is kind of where I would want this program to go. That would be the point and the purpose. And I realized that a lot of my research was geared more, initially it started off as, as a woman in a traditionally male dominated field, who wasn't seeing programs and training and coaching that taught confidence in a way that was authentic. Um, how do you go about finding that? And at that time, the goal was to find that confidence to build the level of success that we all desired, the financial freedom, financial independence, health and wellness, all of those things. And so confidence turned into, building success. And a part of building success that kept coming up was the idea of productivity, getting all this stuff done. Work-life balance is always a conversation that we have. So this thing that I initially started to build for women in male-dominated fields just kept growing and growing and growing, and partially because it was, my interest, the things that I personally enjoyed researching and looking into, love researching into personal development, but I always wanted to find that, female-focused level of knowledge for personal development in a way that just was authentic. For myself, as I often share, I kept finding that a lot of the things that I learned when it came to confidence and authenticity and building success, it was very male focused and often, continuing um, those toxic teachings that I was actually trying to get away from myself. So, as I started to grow the Boss Ladies Network, we started to do a lot of different things. So the place that I'm at now is this realization that through the evolution of this program, um, I have done a lot of research for myself. I've gathered a lot of information in order to find the frameworks, in order to build the frameworks that I teach the community. You sort through a lot of stuff. You sift through a lot of stuff. This is something that I'm passionate about, that I'm interested in. So I do a lot of reading related to this topic. And a lot of the information doesn't always get slotted into a part of the course or a part of the framework. A lot of it comes up through coaching or discussion, or, sometimes there's like a random article that I read and I'll take snippets and I'll save it in my notes, but it doesn't come to the light of day again because as an entrepreneur and a business owner, as a teacher, there are specific things that you're teaching to make the understanding of what you're trying to convey as simple as possible, and as easy to grasp for the people who are involved in our program, that sometimes it just doesn't allow for me to go off on a tangent on all of the things that I'm finding and discovering and learning, and that is actually interesting and helpful. So it's sort of been on my mind to figure out a way to incorporate that information. And I've kind of dabbled with blog posts and articles social media posts. Um, and I recently been getting some encouragement to do some live videos to talk with you live. And you guys know me. I love to do a live video. I love to jump on live and just hear from you guys. I love to sort of just riff and there's something about just talking things out sometimes that is just fabulous. And being able to do that in a community of like-minded professional women, um, sometimes it leads to breakthroughs and aha moments that I never would have seen otherwise. So this is something that I've been encouraged to do, and I've been talking about it with a couple of different friends. And you know that like pillar number 9 is take action, get in there, dive in, do the things, iterate. You'll learn from whatever it is you're trying to do, and I want to live what I teach. That's how this framework has been created. I didn't just take knowledge from other people, repackage it, and spew it out to the community. I try it for myself and I see what works for me and what works for people that I share it with. And, this dynamic of sharing and talking about it is how the things that I teach have evolved. And I just felt like there was something missing. So I just wanted to try this. I wanted to try some a component where I am allowed to, in like an off the cuff, unfiltered way, share with you the little things that are happening behind the scenes. And I also find that, we do big events every 6 months. Sometimes we have a talk or a meetup or something where a specific topic is discussed. And I think a lot of times when or even like on monthly newsletters, you're kind of filtering through a lot of information that you've gathered over a course of a time for like, what's the best, what's the most interesting, what do we want to talk about this month, what's relevant. And again, a lot of stuff falls through the cracks. So I was saying to a friend the other day that in teaching this course, I thought that it would be in teaching this program, becoming a teacher in this space, a facilitator, a communicator, a knowledge broker. I thought that it would give me the opportunity to do what I'm passionate about and what I love 24/7, just research this information for uplifting and building women and encouraging growth within our community. And a lot of it has actually turned out to be marketing. So I'm also trying to wrap my head around that. So a lot of the time that I find I can get bogged down, like on a personal level, just being, full transparency. I can get a little bogged down in the marketing aspect of stuff, um, making sure the social media looks a certain way and all of those things. And I also found that in doing that, I lose a lot of the stuff that I learned just doesn't convert. It doesn't get out there. We don't get to have those conversations because it becomes like, oh, this is a really interesting tidbit. I should craft the article or video or training around this thing. And, in the list of all the things that needs to get done, as a solopreneur, as an entrepreneur, it just doesn't happen. So here I am trying this out. So I would love for this to turn into a series. I don't know what it's going to look like. I would love to continue with this. My goal is to come here daily. What I'm realizing, again, full transparency, is this may just be me, but there is a level for me of, okay, we're going to go live, set up jump on TikTok, have it be a TikTok live, but also have your camera out and, also record a couple of other angles so it becomes a production. And that was what I was trying to avoid. So, again, we're just going to see how this goes because there are a lot of little facts, little tidbits, little bits of information that I do come across that I think would help this community of women in STEM, women professionals, women in a male-dominated field that I would love to be able to have flexible, fluid conversations about and get some feedback from you, hear what you're working on, what's interesting you, what's troubling you, what are your challenges, what are the hurdles, and I want to have that real-time conversation. So diving in, topic of discussion for today. That's sort of just like a little bit of where I'm coming from, what got me here, why I'm coming to you live. But I found this article on in Fortune magazine just this morning, and the topic was the title is Unemployed Gen Zers are having to turn down work because they can't afford to commute and they can't afford the commute and uniforms, which is what a report is showing from the UK. And as I read the article, I thought it would be more of a financial challenge sort of article. And I dived into it because I know a lot of the people in my community are in between jobs, transitioning, if I do find information, I try to step in to see if I can glean anything that could help in our talks and our discussions, right? But I think one of the highlights for me from this article was the mental health component behind all of this. So it's not just the ability to afford the clothing and the commute and the travel, which I totally get, but the mental impact or the mental toll that the Gen Zers are challenged with. And I realize that this article is about Gen Zers, but it's also with the millennials and whatever generation comes before millennials that I've also been working with. So I've seen this in women in their 30s and up, even though this article is talking about Gen Zers, which I think are people in their 20s or so. But the challenge of that their mental health is having on how many days they go to work, the job application process, their productivity at work. And I was like, this is what I've been saying for years. There's so much out there on crafting your resume and it's who you know, not what you know, and all of these things that we use to prepare ourselves to be functioning adults in the working world. And one of the challenges that has been a pet peeve of mine is that there's not enough conversations around mental health, around your mindsets, around your ability to approach and tackle problems. That's not just, okay, if you're giving a list of 6 choices or A, B, C, D, if you're given a list of 4 choices, choose C. There are things that we are taught, and there are things that life teaches you that you have to learn and figure out. And I found that a lot of people, and again, one of the reasons that I got into building the Boss Ladies Network was that a lot of people were experiencing burnout, stress, and overwhelm, and we didn't have the tools. We were never, you're not taught in school the tools for how to deal with those things, how to tackle the not just the financials, because that is another element that I think that people that we do need to talk more, teach and talk more about, planning out your financials. But what does that look like for a person when your finances aren't where they want to be, where you want them to be, where your career is not where you want it to be, how that makes you feel, how that affects your interactions with other people, how that affects what you do at work, how that affects your productivity and effectiveness. There are so many other things that this, what's happening up here affects that we just don't give any time or thought to. And I think it's a real shame because, I see these studies all the time. I was really proud of this article for actually calling it out. And let me see if I could just drop a link to this in the chat. But I was really proud that whenever I see these conversations happening, I don't know how to drop this thing in the chat. I think I need to, no, it's not letting me. I will post it later on. It's asking me if I want to do live gifts and all kinds of other things. But, I'm really glad that we're starting to have these conversations, that we're starting to create a space where these conversations can be had, because I come from a background of architectural design, and a lot of the conversations, when you see them on LinkedIn and on social media, there are always a couple of people who get in there and they have that mindset of, well, in the 1940s, people were suffering and going through a lot, and they still managed to raise their families and go to work, blah, blah, blah. Or, back in my day, we had problems and issues, but, we still got our jobs done, blah, blah, blah. But it's like, it's not a matter of I suffered, so you should suffer too. It's a matter of how can we make it better for the current generation, the next generations, and the future generations. If you're stuck in a mindset where you're just like, let's just keep everybody suffering because I suffered, that's a you problem. That's not the direction that we should be going in. That's not productive or helpful for anybody. Like, why make people suffer unnecessarily is my point of view, right? So a couple of things that I wanted to sort of point out from this article that I thought were interesting finds. At the end, I love that it gives some tips for how employers can help their employees to navigate the situation. But one of the things that I always challenge, I guess, the status quo is, again, in our fields, in our industries, we're big on mentors, on advisors, on, we come from that background of apprenticeship. You come into the field, whether it's architecture, construction, or tech, all of these fields, and you usually learn from someone else. But I always want to give this I always want to make sure that you understand the difference between a mentor and community. I think it's also important for you to have a community. And again, this is where the Boss Ladies Network came from. Have a community of peers that you can talk to who aren't at, they want you to succeed as a human, as a friend, but they're not there, championing the industry or the company. A lot of times people in our fields will find mentors within the company, and that mentor's job is to keep you in the company. Their outlook isn't often for what's best for you as a human, but what's best for the company, what's best for the industry, what's best for the field. So I always think it's good to have people outside that you can talk to and share how you're really feeling. Also, sometimes there are just things that you wouldn't say to a person in your company because of fear of backlash, or fear it's going to go into HR, or fear that it's going to go up the chains, or often that something that I hear with women and that I've experienced myself is that if you're challenged with someone, you may not want to share your challenges because you're afraid that um, you may be looked upon as weaker or unqualified. So it causes people not to share. So instead of talking about these things that are troubling you, you hold them in and they become stress, overwhelm, burnout, physical illnesses. So that is one thing that I just wanted to encourage people to do. Find community. Don't just focus on finding mentors. And that is something that I harp on all the time. If you haven't heard me say it before, get ready because it's going to come back again. Another thing is that, thank you for the hearts. Another things that they were saying was, being trapped in this cycle. In our community, we call that the rumination cycle, where you have a negative thought, and once that creeps in, you sort of start to build on it, and you have like this stacking thing where it's like your confirmation bias kicks in, and if you're not careful, you can kind of start to stack on negative, 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 negative until you've taken yourself out of the running for something. You convince yourself that you're bad at whatever. A lot of times we see this as this conversation around like, oh, you'll never be good at that, or you're not enough for that. It usually tends to happen in those types of areas. It happens in other areas. I'm just giving you an example, but it's like you're approached with something and your first thought is, oh, I can't do that. I'm not good at that thing. And as soon as you have that thought, your brain starts to confirm it, and it starts to have, like, to go back into the files and say, okay, well, yeah, you're not good at this because why? Because in kindergarten, your teacher told you X, Y, and Z. Because on the first grade, you tried something, you failed, it didn't work out. Because in college, because in this, and your mind starts to go back and find reasons to confirm that you're not going to be good at this thing. So you have to build the habit of cutting those limiting beliefs, stopping the stack, nipping it in the bud early on. So I like that the article sort of brought up that idea of a cycle. They brought it up more in the realm of your unemployment can cause like negative health stuff, feedback, and then those health issues can further, feed into why you're unemployed. And yes, that happens, but it's that cycle of that mindset. If you're not addressing it up here, it'll always come out in your work. It'll always come out in your relationships. It will always continue to rear its ugly head. So that was something that was standing out to me. Yeah, those are a couple of things that I thought of. And as a person who has been through it myself, burnout, overwhelm, stress, all of those things, I can honestly say that one of the biggest helps for me was talking about it, and putting myself into a community, putting people around me, surrounding myself with people that I could talk to about what I was going through and experiencing, and putting myself in a place where where I was making the time to take a step back and look at what was happening in my life. Um, what, not just like what were the things that were going on, but what was happening around that, like digging deep and finding the reasons behind the things that I was thinking and the things that I was doing. So, just some food for thought that I wanted to share. And out of curiosity, I always want to know from you all, what are some of the challenges that you are facing? Are you in this place where finances are a thing, like you're starting to see your finances or lack thereof affecting your performance in your job, or in your life or your relationships, you know, in our community, we believe that everything is connected. Um, your life, your faith, your health, your physical and mental health, all of those things, they're all linked. So it's important to be aware of that link so that you can address the issue at its root. So um, I want to open it up. Let me see the chat. Hey, Scorpio Cookie. Yes, it has been a long time. It's good to see you. How are things going with you? Oh, thank you for the gifts. Thank you for the roses. You just totally smashed that goal. You're awesome. But does any of this resonate with you all? Are these things that you're seeing in your own lives or in other people's lives? And how do you address it? How do you tackle it? I shared, some of the things that work for me, but again, it's not always like, okay, well, this works for me, so it's bound to work for you. One of the reasons that I do all this is because I wasn't finding the information and the support that I needed in a way that worked for me. So I had to go out and find my own methods and techniques. I now share what I've learned because who knows, it might help someone else who is sort of in the same place. Maybe not everything resonates with you, but one or two things. I can't tell you how many times I read a book, listened to a podcast, read an article where one or two things jumped out to me. Overall, maybe the article didn't have as big effect, but those little things, sometimes it's just one sentence, one quote, etc. So this is I need to see how I can get that chat going in. I think I can comment, but it won't let me add to the chat. We will figure out TT later on. It is wide. Oh, congrats. Good for you. Yay. More money coming in. Yeah, that I'm super happy for you, Scorpio Cookie. Good for you. Awesome, awesome. Yeah, it's nice to see the growth and the progress. Just not quitting, not giving up. Um, there is something I'm currently watching on and off where one of the characters in the show is an addict, and they kind of drum on the importance of going to meetings. And I'm like, yeah, you have to be in community. You have to surround yourself with people who are going to encourage you, who are going to tell you it's okay, you're not broken, that there is a way out of this, that you can get through this. And being able to remind yourself of that over and over and over again is super helpful. And yeah, being connected with people. I know, like Scorpio Cookie, when I first started, there were people, not the Boss Ladies Network and other things. There were people who I would watch do what I now do every day and don't really think twice about. But at that time, it was like, wow, how can they do that? How do they get that done? How do they show up and, every single day consistently? And I can't even imagine doing that. And then you do it and it's like, oh, cool, I can do this too. Now it's just the challenge of sticking with it. And I think that comes from surrounding yourself with people who are also doing it, because there are people out there, we're seeing it a lot now in this season, who are just 100% negative Nellies. Every single thing is a problem. It's a challenge. It's always, the sky is falling. And the 24-hour news cycle feeds into that, because that's how you get people to tune in and watch. So there is a little bit of that happening. But I think that the people who are just like in the phase of shut up and get it done, talk in a positive light, be mindful about moving forward, helping others, getting that head and heart in the right place, where it's not just all about the fear and the worry and the concern and I want to say like worldly things, those things that aren't substantial, and shifting to, okay, how do I serve? How do I help? How do I support? How do I encourage? Um, how do I add value? Getting that connection together, I think, is also super important. I got on a tangent. I was celebrating you having an order. But yes, congrats. Okay. So my goal is to show up here daily and just share a little bit of what I'm working on, some aha moments, things that I find interesting. If you're down for it, hit that bell, show up with me. I'm also going to be posting to my YouTube channel, so you can watch and I don't know, maybe hold yourself accountable on things you're working on, or get some ideas, see what I'm working on that might be able to help you. Again, my focus is on women in male dominated fields, but I understand too that there are a lot of men who are just like, I'm trying to understand, I'm trying to support, I'm trying to add value, I'm trying to be an ally for women in my field. That's okay too. Come through, bring your questions, I'll answer. They say there's no stupid question, there's no awkward question. And I do occasionally have a guy who says, this happened. What was I supposed to do? How do I handle this better? I love getting those questions. It's always a um, great area of discussion to have. So hopefully I'll be here. Um, I'm saying it with a grain of salt because I am not a show up on social media daily kind of person, but I just don't want these little nuggets to go to waste. So it's going to be unrefined. It's going to be unpolished. It's not going to be, I haven't even decided if I want to set the same time of day for it every day, because I do kind of just want it to flow. But I also understand that I need to build a level of consistency for myself. If you plan it, it gets done. If not, you know how it is. So we're going to see how this goes. But send me your questions, post your ideas in the chat. If there's anything you want me to talk about, um, you, you know, whether it's boss ladies, um, core content pillars, or if you're just a woman in a male dominated field who's going through some things and you have some questions, or if you're a guy in a male dominated field who wants to better support the women in your life, come through with some questions. I'm more than happy to talk about mastery, faith, authenticity, focus, growth, gratitude, courage, um, action, and legacy. Those are the 9 pillars. So we can dive deeper into any of those. But yeah, that's it for me. I'll talk to you guys a little later, and I hope that you have a great day and a blessed week. Bye.